Hello, and welcome to Money Matters, presented by Jackson County Library Services in partnership with Rogue Credit Union. I am Ilana Earhart, business librarian. On the JCLS website, you will see our upcoming programs, and I'll share that in just a moment. And you can find books on topics we discussed today. Also available are take and make packets for kids and teens. Those are available at 4 of our branches. I can answer more questions about that as we go. And as well as a web resource guide. That web resource guide will be available on our website in just a couple of weeks. Everyone needs information about how to manage our financial well-being. The resources available and discussed today are designed to help you along your way as you plan for your future, support a family, recover from financial fraud or natural disasters, and more. The information here was curated with guidance from FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and the American Library Association. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Jackson County Library Services. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick here and share a few resources. If you look at our catalog, you can do a search and easily find information through books and audiobooks and digital content about personal finance. So, for example, How Finance Works, the infographic guide to finance, personal finance, and Plan and Finance Your Family's College Dreams, and the list goes on. So that our collection encompasses personal finance for all ages, whether we are supporting children, teens, adults, older adults, and all of the specific needs within those age groups. And it includes Spanish and English. So we're really excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and stop share. So today, Bonnie Glidewell, Financial Education Coordinator, is joining us from Rogue Credit Union to share information on personal finance like budgeting, retirement, fraud prevention, and more. Thank you so much for guiding our discussion today, and I'll pass the mic on to you.
Okay, great. Just like she said, we are partnering together for Financial Literacy Month, and actually at Rogue Credit Union, we focus on youth this month. So we were really excited to do the Take and Make kits in partnership with the library. And I went down to the library yesterday and got an adult Take and Make kit and then the youth one for my son. So if you guys get a chance, definitely go and participate in that. Today, as noted, we're going to be going over some things that just some tips and tricks now that can set you up for a better future financially. In specific, we're going to go over why finances are important, saving and spending, goals, budgeting, money saving hacks, credit, along with credit protection, paying off debt, and some rogue resources. And just to be specific on my role, I'm the financial education coordinator. I am not a financial advisor. We do have specific investment services at Rogue available for that, and they do actually do free consultations. So let's go ahead and get started. Where is the average American? We have definitely an American debt crisis. We have, on average per household, the credit card debt is over $15,000, mortgages are over $181,000, and auto loans are over $27,000, student loans over $46,000, and total debt would average $134,000. And these statistics are from 2018. I say these things not to, make you down in the dumps about your own personal finance or just think, wow, as America, we really can't get back on track, because we can. We have control over a lot of our finances. It's just a matter of what steps that you need to take in order to get there and planning ahead. So a lot of the times the inability to budget is due to high expenses and low income, but many times people just don't adjust between their wants and their needs. And, I think everybody is guilty of that, just not Americans. Budgeting Budgeting and living under your means is a mindset and should be taken seriously. We do struggle with the lack of discipline. And I recently learned about a famous study called the marshmallow test. This was conducted at Stanford University in '72, and that measured how children who delayed immediate gratification to receive greater rewards, as far as, waiting on that marshmallow. And they followed that same set of kids, those who didn't eat the marshmallow, and then those who did, and those who didn't, who waited upon request, were financially better off because of that, not fulfilling instant gratification. And so, funny enough, that really has a lot to do with our finances today. So 55% of Americans spend more than their paycheck every month. 63% don't have enough to cover savings for a $500 unexpected bill, and we'll go over that. And 33% have no savings at all. So how do we get there? Definitely money mindset, lack of planning, lack of resources, and lack of knowledge. And just like I said, you have the ability to change a lot of this. I like this infographic on the left-hand side because it just kind of shows how we get into that payment trap. So, say you go shopping and you're looking for a new car. A lot of people don't choose the modest car that will get them to and from work, that would cost a lot less than something that's, $40,000 vehicle that maybe will take over 5 years to pay off, and it has that high interest. So for example, we're looking on the left-hand side at the car that costs $30,000. Well, the payments every month for 84 months at 5%, you would end up paying over $36,000 for that vehicle. So I'll certainly recognize the fact that we all come from different walks of life, and we all have different barriers that make up personal finance circumstances unique, but paying attention to what you have control over will certainly help. The healthy way to view money is to understand that it's capital, not something to be consumed. Capital is supposed to grow and use as you have to, but it doesn't grow on the trees. So basically, don't fall for the sales pitch. Healthy finances is really looking holistically at where you want to be, not just living in today. And it doesn't happen without planning. So setting goals, tracking spending, be smart with credit and debt. And if you're not careful with how you use credit, you can easily find yourself in debt, but never learn how to quit, because nobody starts off with whatever their goal is. It can take years. Oops. So look at what is that short-term goal of yours? What is the long-term? And always plan for those emergencies. What steps do you have to take to get there? Maybe that's different savings tricks that we can go over in a little bit. Where are you now? So track your spending, and AKA that's the budget and the planning piece. How will you reach your goals? You have to build credit, repair credit, and then protect your credit. And these are all things that we're going to go over. And then most importantly, paying off that debt. So the blueprint for personal finances, this is a recommendation. Not everybody can get here right away. Sometimes it will take people years to get these emergency funds or get through all these steps. But we will go over that because this is what a financial advisor would tell you. So first of all, step one is building a mini emergency fund. So cover $1,000 or 1 month of expenses, because as we see, especially in the last year or two with the pandemic and the natural disasters and everything, those emergencies do happen and people lose their jobs, and you have to be able to have a little bit of a cushion, because if you don't, then you'll have to take out those high interest loans that will end up costing you more later. So if you can plan ahead now, that will put you in a better position. So number two, fund your retirement. It suggests 10 to 15% of income minimum. I personally cannot do that. And so I know that that's unobtainable for a lot of people, but even if you can start small, like 2 to 5%, you will eventually get there, and having some is better than having none. So pay off that high interest debt, tax liens, late payments, credit cards, and payday loans. Number four, continue your emergency fund. So maybe you get to that $1,000 earmark or 1 month of expenses. keep growing that. And if you have 3 to 6 months of expenses, then you're in a really great spot. Save for your goals. So what are those goals? College, buying a home, starting a business, paying off low interest debt, or even paying off of that college debt. Some of that stuff can linger for a long time, but you just chip at it as you go along. So again, this is a blueprint for personal finances. You might not be able to follow this to a T at first, especially funding a retirement, but making strides toward it now with short-term actions will help you in the long run. Okay, so stop living in the now and have focus on the short term or on the long term. For example, you have to start paying off student debt as soon as you graduate, if not before, but you have to make a plan on how you plan to do that. So people focus solely on the day-to-day expenses, tend to save less than those with long-term financial goals. And if it helps, make that visual, write it down, check on it weekly, check on it monthly. You don't check on your goals every 2 years because that's not going to happen. Prioritize your goals from most important to least, and then calculate how much you need to save each paycheck to attain those goals by their desired date. Okay, so first look at your short-term savings and convert them into a long-term goal. You can form daily habits that help you save, such as cutting out unnecessary expenses and those, spending items on or putting them into an account, which then will earn you interest. For example, I recently learned about Truebill. This is a great app you can use that will tell you your subscriptions without having to dig for them. On the left-hand side, you'll see this graphic saying that nearly 1 in 10 millennials spend more than $200 a month on subscription services. So that could be, a gym, and a lot of that, fitness is important too. But TV, do you really need to spend $200 on a cable bill that you maybe watch a little bit? Those dollar shave clubs or the coffee of the month club, all of those fun things, they really do add up. And a lot of the time people sign up for them and they don't even realize that they have them because they're not going into their accounts. They're not checking and reviewing their credit card bills and stuff like that. So that app Truebill will actually find those things for you. And then on the right-hand side, this employer 401k match. This is really important. I wish that someone would have stressed the importance of planning for my retirement straight out of college, because I was 21 and, I wasn't thinking about retirement. I was thinking about saving money and spending my savings off on the college debt that I had accrued. Well, you also have to think about the long term. And so if you're offered a position out of college that will match your retirement fund, even though it seems like you could be spending your money, that 3 to 4% from your paycheck, into something better, if you can get that matching, but you opt out, that you're literally spending or throwing money away. So it's just really important to think about those long-term goals. So as far as retirement planning goes, let's look at these two people. Both put in just over $90,000 to their retirement account. Carol saved $2,000 a year, which is about $166 per month, starting at the age of 22. And then John saved $3,500 per year, which is about $290 per month, starting at the age of 42. It can be very hard to save this much each month, so start younger and make it easier on yourself. Assuming that this is a 6% annual rate of return, even though they save the same amount, Carol, because she started younger, she ends up doubling what John saved. So, and then I'll just say to you guys that we do have a handful of retirement planning resources at Rogue. Like I mentioned, the investment services, as well as videos, articles, and more. And when we finish up with the presentation, hopefully we'll have a few minutes to go over that. Okay, so let's look back at that emergency fund. So this is a way to protect yourself from going into further debt just by starting small now. It's a great way to insure yourself to save. And on the note of insurance, even though it's another added expense, a lot of people don't think of that as an insurance policy. So, but if you aren't paying for that insurance and something happens, like renter's insurance is, I think, $10 to $15 a month. And a lot of people found themselves in a difficult position recently because they didn't pay up front for that renter's insurance. So sometimes we have to spend money on things that we don't think is important, like an emergency fund or, that insurance policy, but it does end up saving you in the long run. So like I mentioned, that 3 to 6 months of expenses saved away in a liquid account, such as the Road Credit Union or a basic savings account. I find it easier, like when I was saving up for my emergency fund, to literally open up an account and label it emergency funds. And then you can take part of your paycheck every month and just automatically set that up to transfer into that. And so you don't have just one savings account, because how easy is it to spend on, like whatever you would like, whatever your short-term, midterm, or long-term goals are, like a car or a new phone or other things. But you really should keep that emergency account separate. So I just want to say that a budget doesn't mean that you can't spend money. It's just really creating a plan on how you spend your money. So it's for people who have a lot of money or people who have very little. It's not just for one category. There are many Hollywood stars or, sports athletes that I can think of who've made millions and then go broke within the first couple of years. And it's not because they weren't making enough money to pay their rent or pay their mortgage. It's because they were mismanaging their money. So you really have to create that spending plan, track all expenses and incomes. So when you're doing that, you have to remember your yearly and seasonal expenses like car insurances and taxes. Or if you have kids, maybe it's budgeting extra for those school supplies, different things like that. Daycare, any of those things. So set monthly expenses or set monthly limits for expenses. Your income and expenses should be equal to have a zero balanced budget. And we'll go over that in a little bit. Budgeting is for income, any income level, and you have to be in control, organized, and planned. So rule your money, don't let it rule you. So some budget examples we have on the left-hand side. Mint.com is free. It connects you to your bank account and helps you budget. Envelopes is, it's like a categorized spending, and this one is not free. LearnVest connects you to all your accounts and gives advice on how to reach your goals, also not free. Dave Ramsey, before I joined Rogue, I used this app. It's free, and you can set it up to have say you make the same amount every month and you plug that in, it'll roll over to the next month, and say you have the same expenses every month, and then you plug in your spending. So you end up seeing what's happening at the very end of the month. And that's a really good way to just have a handle on your finances. And you guys, I'm not kidding. I put every single receipt in for like 2 years before I bought a house. And it was very time consuming, but it really helped me pull back on my spending and save for that long-term goal. If you really want, you can use a paper and pencil to make a list of income, or you can go online. There are different Excel documents that have the functions available, and so you don't have to do that longhand work either. And then lastly, we have a Rogue Money Management tool. For those of you who have Rogue accounts, that's already integrated into your online or mobile banking. It's called Money Management. And you can put in all of your credit card accounts, all of your outside bank accounts, everything, and it will track all of it for you. So you don't have to do it all separate. And you can also create a budget and repayment plan inside of this as well. Okay, so one method of budgeting is the 50-30-20 rule. The first 50% you spend on essentials. So that's things that you can't not get away with: housing, auto, monthly bills, and groceries. And then the 30% would be lifestyle, like clothing, eating out, entertainment, and your phone. And then the last 20% would be your future. So emergency funds, as you can see, is separate from savings and also separate from retirement and from investments. And you might not be able to start out with that exactly, but as you go along and continue, and maybe you make more money and then you pay down that debt, then you can always re-strategize your plan. Budgeting is not a set it and forget it kind of task. So another way to budget is the zero-based budget method. This is when your income minus your expenses equals zero. With a zero-based budget, you have to make sure that everything equals zero at the end of the month. And the reason for going through this process is to make sure you're not taking that extra savings and spending it on unnecessary expenses. So on the right-hand side, we've got the 52-week savings challenge. This is learning resources that we have on our website at Rogue, and it's just a downloadable document. And the idea behind this is to basically save $1 the first week, $2 the second week, and so on until you save $52 at the end of the last week for 1 year. And then you'll end up with over $1,300. And so you can take that and put it towards your debt, or maybe put it towards your taxes, or maybe you want to go on a little vacation if you have that option that year. So there's just simple things that you could be doing all the time in order to save for those long-term goals. So some money saving hacks here. I know not a lot of people carry cash anymore, but if you are a cash carrier, I like to have it on hand. So one rule of thumb is to never spend a $5 bill. It seems kind of silly, but if you do have a lot of cash on hand, that will add up. And to re-strategize on your cell phone plan, cut back on non-essentials. So do you really need unlimited data, or can you use Wi-Fi, different things like that? Can you switch carriers? And if you are a Rogue member, or if you do plan to save, or sorry, if you plan to sign up, we have a Save the Change program where everyday debit purchases will be rounded up to the nearest dollar, and will match up to $500 for the first 30 days. And so that change will be debited from your checking account and then deposited into your high yield ownership account. And so that's usually, it ranges between 3 to 4%, which is an amazing interest account for just a typical savings. But everyone who has a Rogue account has that ownership account. So for example, if you bought a coffee for $3.25, you'll be charged $4, and that other 75% or 75 cents would be deposited into your ownership account. So that's just another really easy and fun way to save. Okay, so something I started doing a few years ago was planning meals. And I sit down every Sunday and I plan out my grocery list. I plan out what I'm going to eat for dinner Sunday through Sunday, and then I go grocery shopping. And so that way it'll save me, going and grabbing lunch and spending a lot extra money that way. If you want to treat yourself, go ahead and do that, like once a week. I have a coworker that likes to go out once a week with his family, but there's just a lot of extra added expenses eating out. So if you are trying to do that long-term savings, then that's one way to do it. So buy in bulk, try eating out once a week, buy generic brands, different stuff like that. And then think of all those coffees. If you're a coffee drinker like myself, I brew at home. I do treat myself every few weeks, maybe to a coffee. But if you're going and spending $5 to $10 a day, that's a lot of extra money. So spending $10 a day on unnecessary things like 2 coffees or a lunch out, that's $3,600 a year. So just think, what could you be doing with that extra savings? Buy used clothes. So I love consignment shopping, or what's popular right now is a lot of clothing swaps with friends or even strangers, socially distanced, of course, but that really helps with sustainability as well as saving. So another thing you can do is get a side hustle. Before I was married with a family, I dog sat, I house sat, you can tutor. There's so many different things. Just if you're dog sitting or house sitting, you could make $25 a day in doing that, and if you do that a few times a year for weeks at a time, that's a lot of savings. So, and then lastly, you can negotiate your phone rates. So people actually will call their carrier and try and negotiate. And if they don't, if that phone carrier does not want to negotiate, you can switch. So talked about that. This is going to be a robust section because credit is so important. Because it doesn't just affect your personal finance now, it really affects you in the long term, and your credit score really affects a lot of things, and we'll go over that. So first of all, what is credit? Your credit is your reputation as a borrower. Your credit score is a 3-digit number that summarizes the reputation. Your credit report is a detailed look at the reputation, and every time your credit is checked, it gets a small ding to your score. What is your credit history? That's your history of borrowing money. So your credit score is, or your credit is checked with job applications, renting an apartment, car insurance, cell phone plans, student loans, not federal, just private, and more. You can actually check your credit score or your FICO score for free in Rogue's online banking system. And that's not exact as your credit score, but it's very close. And so you don't have to check your score, weekly or anything, because like I said, every time you do it, it will give you a small ding. It's important to your credit score. And if you want, or your credit and your history of borrowing. So who tracks your credit? These three agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, but you can do it all through one. So the annualcreditreport.com, you could do this once a time yearly with all three agencies. And then it's important to know that each agency has a different report on file, meaning some things will come up with one agency and they won't come up with the other. So it's important to just pull that credit report and review every single one. And sometimes it can take a little bit of digging on, well, what does this even mean? And you might have to call the company. And the reason why this is important is because if you have any activity that's not yours, that affects your credit, meaning you could be spending more on an interest, like a higher interest loan, because your credit score is lower than it is because of a certain activity. So, and then you can raise your score significantly in 2 years if you follow certain steps to get there. It's not something that happens overnight, but, and we'll go over like how you can do that. But we also have an email series class called Guide to Healthy Credit. Okay, so a single late payment can lower your score as much as 100 points. And you guys, that's a lot. So just make sure you pay those bills on time. Your credit score is not impacted by your age, gender, ethnicity, savings account, balance, location, income, or job history. So your credit score breakdown consists of these percentages. The highest one is your payment history. So the next one is amounts owed. The length of credit history is 15%. And then the last two, not in order, credit mix, and then your new credit. So a hard credit inquiry, such as loans, may impact your credit score and stay on your credit report for about 2 years, while a soft credit, for example, an employment background check, won't affect your score. So student loans affect your credit in much the same way as loans do, because it is a loan. Pay as you agreed and it's good for your credit. Pay late and it could hurt it. Student loans, though, may give you extra time to pay before you're reported as late. The lenders report this to the credit bureaus, and you can begin by establishing a track record now. So overall, they can be hard on your credit, but they can really help build your credit as long as you're paying those things on time. So some quick tips to build your credit is number one, pay your bills on time. This is the most important one, and this affects it the most. Pay down your debt, diversify your credit mix, so different types of cards and different types of loans. Don't open too many credit lines at once. And this one, number 5, is so important. And I think this is kind of a myth with credit scores and credit history. Don't close your old credit cards. So it will not hurt you to have it open, literally just cut it up. As long as you don't have an annual fee for that credit card, it will help you build because of that length of it being open. So the good credit score range is between 720 and 780. Okay, so this is how good credit scores save you money. Here's an example with auto. On the left-hand side, you have someone with an excellent credit score, probably in the 800s. And then the next one would be good, fair, and poor. And we're looking at a vehicle that costs $25,000, a 5-year auto loan. If you look on the left-hand side, someone with an excellent credit score would be paying $451 a month at a 3.2% interest loan. And then if you look on the right-hand side, is someone who is paying 17.5% on a car loan. Now that's really rough. And then their payment would be $628. And in my opinion, the difference between $451 and 628. That's a lot, but people do stretch that amount. But look at the difference between the excellent credit score person paying $27,000 for a $25,000 car loan versus someone with a poor credit score who's paying $37,000 for that $25,000 5-year auto loan. So that's tough. That's why it's really important to have good credit, because the better your credit, the lower your loans will be, that percentage rate. Same thing with a home here. We're looking at a $220,000 home, 30-year fixed rate. Someone who, actually the APRs are lower right now with home loans, but someone who has excellent credit score is actually going to pay over $387,000 at a 4.2% interest with a monthly payment of over $1,000 versus someone who has a poor credit score. They're going to be charged 12% interest. They're going to pay over $800 for that house and have a monthly payment of over $2,000. Okay, so that's why credit score is important. And we're just going to look at some steps on how not to crash on your road to good credit. So number one, use your credit card as a tool to build credit. Only make purchases you'll be able to pay off in 1 to 2 months. Pay it off in full to avoid any interest. Number two, never max out your cards. Keep your balance owed under 30% of your limit to increase your credit score. So a $500 card limit, don't carry a balance over $150. And the reason why you want to keep that under that 30% is because that's when it affects your credit score. Number three, don't apply for too much debt at once. Opening too many credit cards or applying for too many loans in a short-term amount can hurt your score. Try to wait at least 6 months before opening a new account. Like I mentioned, keep your account open. Once you pay off a card, if the annual fees are low, like low, or $0 a month, or annual fee, then go ahead and keep that account open in order to maintain a longer credit history, because the longer the credit history, the more it affects your score in a positive way. So establishing good credit takes time and patience. Like I mentioned, this doesn't happen overnight. It takes a couple of years to increase your credit score, but a couple of years can go by fast, as we know. So what is in a credit report? They look at things such as your trade lines, which means your credit accounts, your limits, your types of accounts, and then your credit inquiries. So, who is looking at those and why? Applications for loans, number of times your credit report has been requested for things like that, and then public records and collections. Collections report a lot of things and anything that's outstanding payments there. So that's why it's really important to check your report annually. And again, that is free. And I can tell you, I had a card at 18 and I did not start checking my credit report annually until I was in my 30s. So if you know about it, do it. Okay, so we did talk about that minimum payment trap a little bit. If your current balance is $5,000 and it will take you over 10 years to pay that $12,000 off if you only make the minimum payment. So that's really important. If you can't afford it, don't do it. So minimum payment now, these are the new credit card terms. Now they're required to cover at least 1% of the principal. The principal is the amount of money that you have borrowed that you have to pay back. The annual fee is a fee used to for the credit card from interest. So don't choose a card with an annual fee if you can avoid it. And then with this minimum payment example on the right-hand side, you will end up paying over, almost $7,000 in interest, which is more than what you originally owed. So one example of a card with an annual fee is a frequent flyer card to build free miles, which I know can be very attractive. I used to have one of those cards, and then I found myself not being able to travel yearly. And then I started to do the budget behind it and realized that, I was paying over $100 for a credit card that I couldn't use yearly. And when you even can use that, a lot of the time, they advertise it as it's a free flight, but it's not, because you still have to pay the fees and everything. So it ends up being $100 to pay for this credit card a year, and then another $300. So maybe you'll get a discount on your flight, but it's definitely not free. So that's like a wasted $400. So just another way to save. Okay, and one way that Rogue can help is that we actually have a credit builder loan. How it works is you're extended a loan and proceeds are held in a locked savings account. When the loan is repaid, you receive the loan proceeds and you're invited to apply for an unsecured Visa credit card. So if you guys have any interest in that, just stop by the branch and talk to a member services representative a little bit more for the exact details. Okay, so we talked about credit, and now we need to talk about why credit is important and how to protect it. Because as it notes here, it's just as important as building it. So on average, over 15 million US residents have their identities compromised each year, with financial losses approaching $40 to $50 billion annually. In Oregon, we had over 4,000 cases of identity theft in 2019 alone. And 1 in 5 people have an error on their credit reports yearly. So errors on those credit reports can lower your credit score, which, like we mentioned, can hurt your ability to get new lines of credit and end up costing you a lot more money in the long run. So the way to look at this is just, pay attention, pull your credit score, and know how it affects you. Because scams, fraud, and identity theft are all ways that consumers are targeted through cybercrime. And that's really on the rise, especially now, how we're so reliant on the internet and our cell phones. So as online traffic increases with online shopping, automatic bill pay, web browsing, and more, our risks of becoming victims, or even over the phone or in person, it's increasing. So we just need to be aware of what that looks like and how to protect ourselves. So here's just a few examples of, think of a time when. So these are examples of cybersecurity issues that we're victims of all the time. You receive a robocall asking for your personal information. I don't know about you, I get those very often. You receive an email saying your personal information has been part of a large breach. Sometimes that's a legitimate thing. Otherwise, a lot of the time they're just trying to get you and clickbait and get your information that way. And I'm just going to backtrack a little bit here. Don't just think of yourself with these scenarios. Think of, the elder people in your life, or maybe someone who's a little bit more vulnerable, and how you can be watching out for them. Maybe someone who doesn't have access to, the latest technology trends and everything. So think your parents or even your neighbor. So say you heard about an elderly person who was scammed. Yes, I do hear about that all the time. Your computer was taken over by a virus. You heard a friend's story who had their identity. You saw anything on the news related to this topic. So these are all scenarios that happen often, and it is happening all the time. So just make sure you pay attention and take some steps on how to protect yourself. So the most common categories for fraud complaints in 2019 were imposter scams, debt collection, and identity theft. Credit card fraud was more prevalent in identity theft cases, with more than 167,000 people in the US reported a fraudulent credit card account that was opened with their information. Okay, so just some facts here. Repeat victims are actually, according to the Center for Victim Research, 7 to 10% of the US population are victims of identity fraud each year, and 21% of those experience multiple incidents of fraud. So once it happens to you, it can happen again because your information is out there. And maybe you need to take some better steps on protecting yourself in regards to password security and computer malware and whatnot. Okay, so let me go back to that. 18% of victims take, it's kind of hard to see those, so I apologize. 18% of victims take 4 or more years to notice identity theft. 330 hours on average is the time spent trying to clean up after someone steals your identity. And I don't know about you, but I feel like my time is pretty valuable. Average loss in wages from identity theft is between $1,800 to $14,000, and victims spend between $800 and $1,400 paying for the loss. 50% of identity theft victims have a hard time getting loans or credit due to identity theft. And 66% of identity theft victims' information is used to open new accounts. So protecting your credit, how do you do that? Hackers will use your things like those silly Facebook games. Like on the left-hand side, it says in red, stop giving people your personal information to guess your passwords and security. I love this, even though I've definitely done one of these in the past until I realized how silly it was, because all of your answers to these questions are answers that someone will access your passwords. So if you have a hard time remembering your password, use the password method. Think of a phrase such as, all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. And then you literally spell that out in an acronym. So make sure it's at least 8 characters and contains upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Spotting email scams using smart, unique passwords. Keep your personal information personal. Use a second layer of security, such as a face recognition or a thumbprint is advised. And don't overshare on social media. And then also, I didn't talk about this right here, but don't use only 1 or 2 passwords for all of your accounts. If you can, even if you have 30 things that you have to have accounts for, have a different password for every single one of them. Because if one account is hacked and you have the same password for every single one and they're connected, then you're really going to be in trouble. And I know it's really hard to remember all those things. Or if you write them down on a piece of paper, like some people, you could easily lose that because, I know people that's happened to. So you can use a password manager. There's different apps for that are secure, and they cost around $100 a year, which who wants to spend $100 a year on a password manager? I don't, but if it could save me some headache, I might do it. Okay, so ignore pop-ups requesting account information or offering to increase your computer's speed or to clean your computer. Opting out can also be a good way to go. On the right-hand side, there is it's called optoutscreen.com, and you can put your information into the computer, and that will opt you out of a lot of things. It's through the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and that will help credit card offers in the mail. And then to stop those annoying telemarketer calls, you can put yourself on the donotcall.gov list. I have done that a few times because it doesn't last forever, but it will help. And then 3 ways to spot an email scam is 1, strange characters and misspelled words in the subject line. And then number 2, check links in the email by hovering over the links to show what site it's directing you to. And a lot of the time, it's not directing you to the place it says it is. I recently had something similar happen in my Yahoo account through PayPal, and I have a PayPal account that I don't use. And I hovered over the links, and it was not from PayPal, it was from someone else, but it was basically saying your PayPal account has been, a victim, ... follow these steps. And had I done that, it would have been connected to my bank account and other things. So it's just really important to make sure that you're aware of how to protect yourself. And then if the email is from a business, verify with the business that the email is legitimate before clicking any links. And this is a big topic, and we actually have 3 online classes. It's a part 1, 2, and 3, and those are just self-paced on our website. We have a financial education section on our website, and you can take all these classes. And this is, I think, just 3 or 4 slides, but really you can get into the details of more if you'd like. And those are free even to people who are not Rogue members. Okay, so let's talk about debt. 5 steps to getting out of debt. Number 1, most importantly, change your mindset and stop borrowing money. Number 2, write down all of your debt and pick a debt repayment strategy. Number 3, establish a small emergency fund of $1,000. Number 4, start tracking your spending and create a budget. And number 5, reduce spending and put extra cash towards your debt. So it's important to note here that not all debt is bad. And sometimes we need that bad debt, which is also labeled as harmful debt. Good debt can be helpful while it's categorized into bad debt, and that can be harmful. However, there are times that we can avoid using it, such as payday loans. So you can use your debt in smart ways by paying off your credit cards in a time frame that will not charge you too much interest, or buy a modest vehicle rather than one that will cost you over $30,000 and will end up charging you over 10 grand in interest. So avoid predatory lenders and always check the validity of them to ensure you're not getting yourself into a scam. And those online classes that I mentioned just a second ago do have some resources on there regarding, like how to check someone's validity as a licensed loan officer and different stuff like that. So just make sure that they are a legitimate resource, because fraudsters are all over the place. And then if you're finding yourself striving to make ends meet on a monthly basis, look into nonprofits such as Access that can provide assistance on food and utilities, and other government programs. Dream Savers are really great for first-time buyers. So on the left-hand side is helpful debt, and those are things such as mortgage, education, business ownership, real estate, and investing. And then some that are labeled as harmful debt are credit cards, cash advances, vehicles, consumer debt, and payday loans. A couple of debt payoff methods here to note. On the left, we have the snowball method, and then on the right, we've got the avalanche method. Before you choose one, make a list of all your debts, including balance, monthly payment, and interest rate. I recommend that people use the avalanche method because it will reduce the total amount of interest paid. The only benefit of the snowball method is that it feels good because you're doing, more than once or more than one thing at once. And it would be better to consolidate all debt and see if you can get a better interest rate would be one option there. So on the snowball method, it's pay the minimum on all accounts, put extra towards the account with the lowest balance first, and then when it's paid off, pay down the account with the next lowest balance. So on the avalanche method, pay down the minimum on all accounts, put extra towards the account with the highest interest rate, and when paid off, pay down the next highest interest debt. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end, and I just wanted to kind of talk to you for a second about the credit union difference. I didn't actually know too much about credit unions until I started working at one. And I think it's important to kind of call out some of the things here. As a credit union member, you are a member owner, which means when a credit union does well, your bank account does well. So you're reaping those monetary benefits into what we call a loyalty program, which is really wonderful. And those profits, basically they're returned to the members in the forms of better savings rates, lower loans, and low or no fees. So banks, on the other hand, which I have a bank account outside of Rogue, they're for-profit corporation owned by stockholders, and those profits are then returned back to the stockholders, not in a monetary form back to the member owners. Okay. So I just want to take a look at the Rogue accounts real quick with you. These are just our basic accounts. We have a checking account, a money market, savings, and then we have certificates. The checking, we have two different options, a regular and a super. Money market is you must maintain a $2,000 minimum balance, and it has a higher interest here at 0.2% as opposed to 0.05 in the savings. And then on the certificates, we have different options available, anywhere from 6 months to 72 months. And certificates are, when you put your money into it, it's locked in for that specific amount. And so, for example, if you have a 6% or a 6-month certificate, that interest rate would be 0.3%. You could watch your money grow within that 6-month time frame, or you could do 72 months and get a higher interest rate at 0.85. And that's just a good way to grow your money if you don't want to invest it, or you know that you are not going to be spending it, and you want that higher interest rate, then you can do that. And on the right-hand side here is an example of my ownership account. It dates back from September 2020. Uh-oh. And this is just a screenshot. I literally don't do anything with this account. But I wanted to show you at the very bottom, we have a program called Give and Save. It's offered twice a year, just to Rogue members, and you can take $10 and support a nonprofit of your choice through Rogue. I think we have a couple of different options for that. And you can actually transfer with a $10 donation, you can transfer up to $500 into your ownership account, which means rather than having a 0.05% savings rate, you could get whatever the ownership account is, which is typically ranging between 3 and 4%. So you can watch your money grow. And these are highlighted because this is just what I'm making every month with a $1,000 savings account. So I'm making $2 a month, and then it just increases every single month as my it's not letting me do that. Sorry about that. As my money grows. So that's really great. And then not to mention that Save the Change program that we have as well. Okay, we also have a Rogue Rangers Kids Club program for anyone between the ages of 0 to 11. And they actually have a higher savings rate, which is really wonderful. It's 1%. And it's just a 5% minimum balance, and there's no monthly savings fee. We do have quarterly activities that the kids can either earn money into their ownership account or punches on their punch card. We have a badge book program that's like a give, save, spend. It teaches them smart money habits, and they get an incentive upon completion for that. We have monthly coloring sheets online, and during the time frame of the non-pandemic mode, we do have yearly appreciation events per region, and so we like to do fun things and just show them our appreciation for that account. And then one thing to note is we do have a small saver certificate, so anyone who is a youth can have their own certificate as an add-on with a higher interest rate as well. So we've got some free Rogue resources. All of these are available to anyone in the community. You do not have to be a member. We have a financial education website with self-paced online classes. I think we have 7 of those right now. We have email series classes, learning resources such as calculator function, budgeting worksheets, different things like that. We have stuff that is available for parents or grandparents or anyone in the home with children between the ages of, we've got for the little guys 3 years old up to teenagers, talking about car insurance and different stuff like that. We have personalized calculators. Plug and play your information and see, if you have some extra money or how long it will take to pay off a loan, different stuff like that. We have our monthly dollars and cents blog that goes into our newsletter, and we always have social posts for that. So follow us on Facebook if you're not already. And then we also have a YouTube channel, because with that dollars and cents blog, we highlight different financial topics monthly. And we have a YouTube channel where those are hosted for the videos. They're like 3 minutes long. And I think right now we have like 40 or so. And then we do have You Teach a Curriculum, and that's mainly geared to high school students, and some are for college students. So those are basically like pre-packaged presentations with activities and different stuff like that. And you don't have to be a teacher to access it. A parent is like, they can easily put a request in and I'll email it to them as well. And then seminars, workshops such as today. And then I'll just show you kind of a quick visual of the classes on the left. We are revamping those right now. So the email classes are currently not available, but they will be later on. Paying off student loans, guide to healthy credit, say goodbye to debt, and paying for college. Although these are currently disabled, we do have a lot of other information. So if someone reaches out to me, I'm happy to send them some links to these specific topics and videos and whatnot. So you guys don't have to try and figure it out yourself. And then on the online classes, these are just self-paced, kind of in like a presentation mode for a PowerPoint, ways to pay, budget like a boss, credit 101, estate planning, and then we've got those 3-part cybersecurity. So the first one is like an intro, similar, but definitely more robust than I went over today with my few slides on that. Common scams and frauds, diving deeper into those specific things and how to watch out for them. And the last one, fraud and identity theft. Victim resources. So, what happens if you do come across becoming a victim? What are those steps to take in order to clean that up? And the dollars and cents program, one example right here is how to build your credit. We've got that video available. These are all on our website, and some of them will redirect you to YouTube, where we have our playlist of dollars and cents videos. So the topics we have for blog categories for those monthly dollars and cents articles are auto, budget, college, credit unions, debt, family, homeownership, savings, security, and taxes. And there are definitely things that fall out of that category, like multiple like deep dives into car insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, stuff like that. But those are like the main categories. These are the learning resources that we have available that I mentioned. So, and these are always being built. So we have more that are being added on every few months or so. Personal finance resources, like I mentioned, those 52-week savings challenge, budgeting, a credit score tutorial, debt repayment, emergency financial documents, different stuff like that. And then in the middle here, we've got teacher resources. So those come with an instruction sheet that is similar to what we for the take and make kits and different stuff like that. So it's like an instruction and then the activity on guiding that adult in order to help with that activity. And then learning activities 12 and under, and then learning activities 12 and over. So we do have our newsletters that are posted on our website every month. And in addition to the dollars and cents blog, we have a monthly article that's always personal finance related. So these are just a few that we recently did: types of loans and sources of repayment. Those are specifically for people who own their own business. Common myths about renters insurance. Oh, it looks like I've got a duplicate there. Holiday fraud. And those are our personalized calculators. And that is it for today. I hope this presentation provided you with some guidelines on how to help improve your future through your actions now. And like I mentioned, I'm happy to work with someone if they want to email me. My email address is on the right-hand side here. And if you want to put your email in the chat function, I can get back to you I would be more than happy to share my PowerPoint presentation with you or other resources to help you along the way.
Hey, it does look like we have one question in the chat. So Megan asks, can a credit card company cancel your account because you're not using the card? If so, does that lower your credit score?
No, I have not heard of that happening. I don't think, I know that like with a department store, that can happen, but I don't believe like Rogue or a bank would do that.
Okay. And I want to invite additional questions. So, okay. She says that REI did that.
Oh, so maybe that's because they are a department store and they might have different rules. Thanks for sharing that, Megan. I will definitely look into that. So if that comes up again, then I have a better answer whether or not that's just department stores or other credit card companies. I haven't personally heard of that happening before, and I've definitely have credit cards that I have not used in a long time that are still active.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, I do want to thank Bonnie for being with us today and sharing all of this information. It did take some planning and time in advance to get everything together. And I am so grateful for all of that energy. And this will be available through YouTube. And so that'll be uploaded within the next week or two.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to put our financial education website link in there. And then just so you don't have to find it, I will put our YouTube playlist in there as well. Yeah, we have 34 videos and they're very quick and informational. And there is an option to, when you're on our financial education website, to email and get a response. So if you guys think of something later, or if you have any feedback, I'm always happy to communicate with people.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really awesome resource to be able to connect later and ask additional questions and continue to have access to learning about resources. So I do want to thank you. And if there's anything else that you want to share, I want to let you do that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and close out for our program today.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Be well.
Bye, everybody.